its community members what we have to offer, the work that we're working on, and just ways that you can get involved to make our community a little bit better. So please cast your vote for me. Thank you.
Stand up with this? Okay, I'll be next to it. I guess I hold the whole thing. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I am so excited to be here in person with so many people I love in the city of Willits. I know there are a lot of people here with ideas, with passion, with expertise to share. I'm glad I took notes because I'm going to forget what I wanted to say. I have also been going door to door and collecting information from people. It's about all of us as a community, talking about our town, how we want to go forward. I wasn't expecting to have 5 candidates for this office. I had been asked to run a year ago when Madge decided she would not be running for re-election. And we thought it would be difficult to find enough people within the city limits willing to run for city council. But here you see we have 5 people. We all know each other. I dare say we're all actually friends. And 3 of us will end up on the city council. Yes, I've been going door to door. I've talked to a couple hundred people so far. So I'm bringing their ideas to this also and thinking about if I get elected to the city council, I think I will continue going door to door because I find a lot of people with expertise that I don't have that kind of daunted by coming to the city council. So I think that outreach is very important for the future of our city. Thank you.
All right, my name is Jerry Gonzalez. It says Gerardo, that's my given name, but most people know me as Jerry. I was born and raised here, born at Howard Hospital, and went all the way through school here, left for college, met my wife there, and then came back. I worked for the city for 30 years as a police chief for 13 of those. Retired in 2016 and got on the city council, besides Sabrina, the only other incumbent running. And I want to do this because I feel I've got some more, work I haven't finished yet. We passed Measure K. We want to make sure that the money's spent the way the community wanted it spent. That's one of my goals, is that we get those projects done, and I feel the next 4 years will be what we can work on. Like Robin, I get hit up at Safeway, Mendocino, everywhere else I go. I listen to everybody that stops and chats with me. My wife kind of gets annoyed because a trip to Safeway for me could take, instead of 15 minutes, sometimes it's an hour and a half. In fact, she doesn't even go to the store with me anymore because she's actually walked out of the store and said, "I'm just going to walk home. Here, bring home the groceries when you're done." So Willits is that kind of town. And again, I know everybody here. I think you'd be happy with everybody that got elected here. I think I can work with anybody. I've worked with folks on the council. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. There's a million things you could be doing on a nice fall Sunday afternoon, and I really appreciate you being here. The Think Globally, Act Locally relies on you as a local voter to have you represented. My name is Tom Allman. I was with the Sheriff's Office from 85. I retired in 2019. I was the sheriff. I was lucky enough to be the sheriff. I was elected 4 terms. And I've lived out in the valley for a long time, and I've recently moved inside the city. I'm running for city council. I have 3 very strong things I believe in, and of course, public safety is very important to me. Public safety means a lot of things. It doesn't just mean fire and police. Public safety means safer roads. Public safety means mental health. Public safety are the things that local government should be doing for the citizenry. Local government is there to provide public safety as a primary responsibility. And I'm also running because I really want to honor the city workers. I was contemplating running for city council, and I had 3 city workers approach me in 3 days and express some disappointment in some of the decisions that were being made at the city level. And I listened to them, and I believe that they had some legitimate complaints, but I've learned from being a public employee for so long that the city workers, the county workers, are the ones who carry the weight. They're not the highest paid people in the county or city, but they're the ones who do a lot of work. When it's flooding, when it's the 4th of July, when it's time that everybody else wants to stay home or go out and do something fun, public employees go out and do it. And I want to support the city workers. My wife and I raised 2 boys. They're out doing blue-collar stuff right now and just and love of life. My time is up. Once again, thanks for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew Alanis, and I am running for Willits City Council because I love this town. I love this town so much. I just moved here about 10 years ago, which is pretty new compared to some of y'all. But I grew up in a very similar small town in Southern California, in the deserts between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And in this little town, I have found a home and many family and friends here, and I've really enjoyed participating and volunteering. I work at the local high school. I work currently as a math teacher, but 16 years before that, I was working as a history teacher where I taught government and econ. I've been in public education for 24 years, and working with children has led me to working in politics. What I would like to do is to focus on some of the issues that are facing our town together. I know that a lot of us have great ideas individually, but sometimes the rest of us feel left out or left behind. And what I would like to do is to put together a new city council that focuses on everybody succeeding and moving forward together. I have some ideas about how to do that. That includes some of the stuff the city is currently working on, which includes the land use element in the general plan. I'd like to see that succeed. And I'd like it to succeed by focusing on the important things, such as water capacity and wastewater capacity. Doesn't matter how much land we take from people, it matters how much we can actually provide services to them. So I'd like that to be a focus. Secondly, I'd like to also rebuild the relationships with our surrounding community. Many of these recent fights and disagreements in our city council have led to division among people who are longstanding members in our community. They may live out in the valley, or they may live out in Pine Mountain, or up in Brook Trails, but these are still our family members and our neighbors, and they should be included in the stakeholder decision-making. And I'd like to continue on with some of the stuff the city is going on, but I'd like it to move forward together. Thank you.
So our first question for today, what role does the City Council have in economic development? What are your ideas for attracting more businesses and employment opportunities for residents? So we will start with Robin Lader.
Economic development. I think there's 2 parts to this. One of the ideas that I heard walking door to door was about housing, but they said the solution is live and work units, like they have in Europe, and that they're starting to implement in Windsor, where people live upstairs, they have a business downstairs, or they can rent the downstairs, and that way it combines the live and work that takes care of a lot of, you don't have as much need for parking and roads and more for community. That's all I have time for.
Thank you.
The role of the city plays in economic development is to lower barriers and also to provide avenues for businesses or individuals seeking information. I think the city already does some of this already. It also can send you to folks like the West Business Center. For a lot of businesses that want to start up, they can go ahead and get ideas or talk to technical experts. Sometimes the first I guess the first step to getting into business, and I am not a business owner, so I'm not going to preach to business owners, but the first step is to figure out whether or not you can get into business. I think the other, I feel like, again, lower barriers and provide avenues for success.
The bottom line is this local government needs to attract local businesses here. And we have so many empty buildings downtown Willits, we need to focus on that. And if you drive by and look at the local buildings, some of them have had broken windows, shattered windows for a year. And I think it's something that local government should get involved with, because the broken window theory in law enforcement is if you have a broken window today, the next year that you very possibly could have a burnt building. It continually goes downhill. Attracting local businesses. We all know that Starbucks just came into town. Hooray, we have a Starbucks in town. But we also have some very good local coffee shops that I hope that we as locals are going to continue to support, because keeping our money local is how we keep our employees here. They can raise a family, they can go to school here, and hopefully their kids will stay here. It's a revolving business circle, and I'm certainly a big fan of local people having local businesses, and for the city to use some of the sales tax that we get back into promoting local businesses. Thank you.
The role the city council has, as our Brady already mentioned, is to reduce the number of barriers. The plans that I have include working with the city, of course, within the city, to increase our utility services and to watch the growth through those terms. That's going to be critical for any kind of future businesses. They're going to need the utilities. They need to know they're working. They're not going to have brown water. They need to make sure our electricity is available. Another part of that is, of course, is it's safety. It's our public safety. There's a number of police that we have patrolling the streets. Who wants to open up a business when there's graffiti all over the place, when there's broken down cars? Of course, there's fire safety. Who's going to open up a business if your insurance is going to be 3 times it is compared to a neighboring community? So these are all the issues that the city could help lead with by building up partnerships throughout the community, including the Chamber of Commerce as well as the West Business Center.
Economic development is critical to our community, and it's not just one thing. It's many things that come together. Advocacy, the city council has to do lots of advocacy. We've got to build partners, whether it be housing or education or supporting local business owners. The most common reason I hear why people don't come from out of town to live in our community or work in our community is because our education system is struggling. It needs support, and that requires each of us being responsible and giving to our community to make it better. As a business owner, I work really hard to aspire to do better, to provide local goods and services, and to be a leader to others in the community that are struggling. We all have to network together. There's no single business in this community that's going to thrive standing alone. We have to partner together and help one another use our resources. Thank you. My time's up.
Thank you. What is your perspective on land use in and around Willits? Do you think it is a good idea for Willits to annex some parcels in some unincorporated areas of Mendocino County, and why?
I currently serve as one of my additional duties on the City Council for LAFCO, and one of the things that they're charged with there is preserving open space. And I think I've said publicly at the City Council meeting that if you don't want to get married to us, you don't have to get married to us. Ultimately, if it was a situation where your well is failing, your water is failing, and you need to come into the city, the laws are pretty clear that if you want those services, there's going to have to be movement towards bringing you into the city. And I think we need to plan for that in the eventuality that it may happen in some areas. And some areas we can't grow, like we really can't grow to the east anymore. And we're kind of limited north. And so it's basically southwest to a point. And again, if only you want to be married to us because you need water or sewer, then I think that I'm open to it. I prefer to do what I think they call it infill, where you basically fill up. I think the current city zoning plan is to do some mixed use. I think Robin mentioned that earlier. It's not a new idea, it's been out there, and we're basically embracing that. There's going to be some mixed use zones, so that's my feeling on annexation.
That's a great question, because in the next 10 years, this is going to be probably one of the most talked about topics there are, because where are we going to grow? And as Jerry said, we're kind of limited in the direction, but let's talk about what land growth is. Land growth isn't just for residential, land growth isn't just for business. Land growth involves everything else, the use of the fire department, the police department, the sewer, the water, all of the utilities that LAFCO gets involved with. And if the city of Willits invests the money in preparing for the land use expansion, then yes, we can grow smartly, but we don't want to be the city that grew too fast and we failed. We have to be very smart about it. And one of the primary purposes of city council is watching that growth. Providing public safety, watching that growth, and make sure that we aren't outgrowing our schools and outgrowing the utilities that we all need so much. So as we go through the next, the 3 people who get elected to city council, the land use topic is going to be the most talked about issue. And we have to study it, we have to be smart, and we don't want 20 years from now someone looking back and saying, what the heck were they thinking? We need to think right now and make very, very smart decisions. Thank you.
Yes, when it comes to expanding the sphere of influence, it's often really a matter of when. I mean, they already are receiving these utilities. It is just a matter of time before they realize that it's better to join the city. And that makes sense. That makes sense for us to make those decisions. It's just a question of being smart about it, about how and when. And again, for me, it's a big thing to make sure that all the people who are stakeholders are involved with that. They've been working on the general plan, this land use element for quite a while. And just a couple of months ago at our meeting, the residents over at Exley Lane, when they found out that their land was in danger of being added to the sphere of influence, many of the residents came, spoke up at the council, and the council themselves listened to them. They listened to them, realized that their property didn't have anything to do with housing or anything else that their city was planning, and they removed them from possibilities of being included into the sphere of influence, which is great. But they've been doing it for 2 years, and they just found out a month ago that some of these people in the communities did not want to be a part of the city. And I feel like there's other people who have not yet even been informed about it. Those people who showed up to the city council meeting even said specifically that they did not receive notification. Now, I'm sure that the city followed the law. They did exactly what they were supposed to do, and that requires them to notify certain individuals. But there were other individuals who were involved who were just not notified, and I'm not sure that I want to hide behind the idea of like, well, we followed the law when we're dealing with our neighbors, with our community, with our friends and family. Thank you.
All right, first let me begin with some facts. The city of Willits is not currently annexing any property. It is true that we have been looking at opportunities to expand our sphere of influence. There are properties outside the city limits that currently would like to be inside the city limits. Maybe their wells are failing and they want access to city water or sewer, or maybe we're providing fire services and yet their tax dollars are going to the county. So we have been looking at that. This city council that you have currently has been very proactive. The general plan was due long ago, before my time, for an update. We've worked very hard on the general plan updates, specifically the land use elements. There's been many, many meetings, and I'm sure we've all heard it said, but that maybe you didn't know of what was going on. But you have to remember that it's each of us. It's my responsibility, it's your responsibility to look into matters that are happening. Be involved, read the agenda, ask a council member. Myself and others were very available. I've always taken the time to sit down, talk to people, answer your questions. Come talk to us. Nobody should be surprised about anything that's happening at the city level. You have local city council members, whether it be the group that's sitting now or the group, a change that's ahead of you. Come talk to us. We're your neighbors. Thank you.
Okay, land use. You know, I want to add something to the economic development. Willits is a market town. We're at the crossroads between Covelo and Santa Rosa and the coast and everywhere. And we need to take advantage of that. The other part of this is, will we survive climate change? I don't know if it's too late to reverse climate change, but I do know that we all have an obligation to try to survive it. And a lot of that means food, producing the food we eat here in this valley. Thousands of years ago, the native population of this valley was about 10,000 people in a dozen villages around the lake. They survived without a safe way, and we can do that again. We have people who grow vegetables. I have a dozen fruit trees and eat my own fruit year-round. People raise chickens and eggs and goats and milk, and we even have our own organic beef. I think that we have to be really careful with land use to preserve all our agricultural land and all our open space. We will need that. Thank you.
What policies and programs will you support to increase affordable housing in Willits?
Tom Allman. Affordable housing is very important. I'm a realtor, and that's my post-retirement job, and I truly understand the hardships that a young family goes through to find house and hopefully buy a house. There are some first-time buyer incentives out there, but the cities have to go after them, the counties have to go after them, and I'm looking forward to that. And if you're interested, I don't want to be your realtor, but let me tell you, if you have a kid who wants to buy a house, if you're interested, come see me afterwards, because there's some times of the year that are very important to others. But right now, we need to focus on affordable housing, and I want to give kudos to the current city council, because, and I think I'm correct, Jerry, here, after the first of the year, if you own a business downtown, you actually can live in part of the business as well as working in a business. And that's a huge step forward. That's going to provide 12, 15, 20 families a place to live, and they do their business, and that's exactly what we need. But we need to focus exactly on that. Not just low-income housing, medium-income housing. Look at the great housing we have behind the hospital. Well, those are $600,000, $700,000 houses. We need to focus on the housing, if possible, to $400,000. I know that sounds extreme, but really and truly, in the world of real estate, if you have a $400,000 house, there's some people who are going to figure out how to get their families there, and they're going to work local. They're not going to commute, hopefully, to entire Santa Rosa. They're going to work here, send their kids to school here, go to the barber shops, get a coffee shop here, and keep their money right here. Affordable housing makes everybody win. Thank you.
Okay, affordable housing, yes. Yes, my name is Matthew Alanis, and affordable housing, of course, is on everybody's mind right now because it is so expensive. I think one of the things we need to do is make sure that it doesn't get more expensive. At our last city council meeting, they had mentioned our new sidewalk ordinance, in which all of the housing and homeowners are going to be responsible for repairing their sidewalks in front of them, even though that may in fact be in city property. That's not going to be a problem for people who are selling their homes because they're just going to add it on to the cost. But that's just going to raise the cost for the new people, even if it's $500,000, that's just going to raise the cost of property sales. Like so many other people have already said, Tom had just mentioned a little while ago, I like the idea of the new housing, of course, not being mini mansions, but of course being multifamily housing, or loosening our laws regarding accessory dwelling units so that people who have large properties can continue to build on the property that already exists. And those are all plans to keep things available, but it also just has to do with keeping all the utilities smart and being aware of how many houses we are able to build inside of with our water and wastewater. Thank you.
Affordable housing means that each of us has an opportunity to purchase a home. It's the American dream to be able to purchase your own home. But what does that take at the local level to make it happen? It takes lots of things. It takes a city council that's proactive at the state and the federal level in helping to support projects that are locally, to removing some of the red tape. Your local city council has done many of those things. Recently, there's been some changes in laws, and we have addressed them both on the local level. Many people don't realize that you can build a granny unit on your property. That's another opportunity for housing. The price of materials has been really, really high, so working with local businesses to help partnering up to help bring some of those prices down and ensuring that we have a workforce that's available. Workforce is a huge component of affordable housing. When you have a large workforce and you have competitive rates, you have many people that are available to be able to do the work that's necessary. And at the council level, ensuring that the process goes smoothly and quickly, because I tell you, when you're building something, every day that a project is delayed costs you, the builder, money. So it's really important that your council is aware of that and the staff is aware of that, so that we can keep those costs down. Thank you.
I think there's four answers to that question that would encourage more housing, more affordable, and that is the granny units that Sabrina brought up, tiny houses, cluster housing, where you have people living close to each other, and then maybe having shared kitchens, shared big rooms for community parties or and other things. And then the fourth one is live and work spaces that are combined.
Jerry Gonzalez, and my answer to this is, I think Sabrina offered a little bit of this already. We're doing a lot of this already at the city level, and I'm not going to take credit for it. I'm not going to let the council take credit for it. This is staff. This is your planning department, your building department's already doing some of this. But one of the things that people don't realize, we've really embraced the CDBG Community Development Block Grants here. We couldn't have applied for them before. One of the things this council did was really pressed to allow planning to get the housing element done so that we could go out for these grants. One of the things that one of the grants is paying for right now is basically existing housing rehab. So some of the older houses that are out there, they're perfectly okay. They just need to be dressed up. Some of them basically from somebody passing away, the house becomes available, but they need work. You can apply for a grant to fix a roof, do these sort of things. That's one level. Some of the CDBG grants also allow for partnering for groups that RCHD can apply to build housing up here. And we're open for that. There's a development plan. What I heard is, I asked what the status was. They said they're still trying to secure funding, but that's planned for down there behind the Mormon church down there. So we are embracing this. We continue to be. If I'm on the council, we will continue. I want to make sure that my kids and their kids, if they want to stay here, can find a place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question. Do you believe climate change is affecting Willits? What programs would you like the city to pursue to reduce its carbon footprint and address climate change challenges?
Climate change is absolutely affecting our community. It affects our fire danger affects our insurance affects our homes affects our future, and all of our families. What can we do to reduce the carbon footprint? I actually think that one of the things we need to do is listen to more people. We need to listen to the people who live here, who have their own experiences, who can bring their own knowledge and experiences to the table. This is one of the reasons why I support a planning commission to be reinstituted in our city. We used to have it, it's still there, but we could bring it back because the people who are more informed about climate change and how to build a safer community would have a much better voice if they had full-time planning commission to work on these things. Of course, they'd also be able to work on housing and resources as well. But climate change is a very serious issue. We need to focus on it at every level, whether that be in education or in schools. And It affects each one of us directly, not just with fire, but also the lack of rain and crops. I'm talking about the other type of issues. And of course, we also are in the middle of taking up any other issue. If there's a problem with another town, say Fort Bragg or something, I mean, we're all part of the same web here. So we can't assume a disaster is going to happen next to us, but we're fine. We're going to have to deal with all the influx of people like we had to deal with with the previous nearby fires. It's definitely affecting us, and it's definitely things we can do. And the first thing we should do is open up to more people who we can all participate in fixing our future.
I'm just going to go ahead and stand and talk louder. Hopefully you can hear me in the back. My name is Sabrina Rodriguez, and when we talk about climate change, I think about what are each of us doing to help mitigate climate change. What does that mean locally? Locally, that means growing our own food here, reducing our carbon footprint by maybe not commuting to Ukiah, having local jobs so that we're not commuting, using public transportation opportunities. I serve on the Mendocino Transit Authority, and we have been I've been working with the board very hard to ensure that we have zero emissions vehicles. If you've noticed the local MTA that goes through Willits, we were the first one to have a zero emissions bus here within the city of Willits. So making sure that we shop local, cut down on the gas, buy vehicles that emit zero emissions, and just, again, I can't say enough, shopping local, staying educated, putting up solar, like so many of us have. We've invested solar in our homes so that we can cut down on the carbon footprint as well. Thank you.
Climate change, okay. No? The main driver of climate change is transportation. And this is the million-dollar question right now. How are we going to stop driving so much? And the way our city and our county is set up, you almost have to have a car. And I'm looking out here, I know most of you are minimal drivers. You walk, you bicycle, you do take public transportation, because I've seen you all out there. The transportation is the big one. We can't do that alone. But we can plan better so that people have access without driving. I really think we should make all buses free, make it so cheap that we don't. I noticed when I used to drive, and when I started riding the bus for a while, the buses were empty as long as gas was still reasonable. As soon as it went up to $4 a gallon, but that was a long time ago, back in those days, it would be cheap now. All of a sudden, there were a whole bunch of people riding the bus, and I think we can do that again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jerry Gonzalez. I'll be honest with you, till my mid-20s, I didn't think climate change was a thing. I found that in the time I've been alive and been in this town, I've seen it rain a lot less. It's been getting hotter and hotter. So I'm a believer. And so what can we do as a city? I think that we can do a lot of things. We've heard solar, we've heard shop local, all these sort of things. It's hard when you live up in the North Coast on some of these things, but most of the things the city's doing already is, you know that if you go get a building permit now, we're basically a green building city when it comes to it. You're supposed to recycle a certain amount of what you're tearing out. There's certain things you're supposed to be doing out there. Even in our garbage, you're finding that they're going to be looking at what you're recycling, what you're not, what's going in the trash, what's going in the recycle, make sure it's actually going there. I think as a city, we need to embrace this new way of thinking. I guess for us, it's the old way of thinking, but I think that we need to embrace this lifestyle. Thank you.
During the 2018 fires, I really came to the conclusion that we don't have to agree on what causes climate change. But we all have to accept that there is climate change. Look at the fires, look at what's happening throughout our world. There is climate change, and instead of arguing of why we have it, let's agree on it, the first step. And as for us, think locally, act locally. I know when you came in, you might have seen an electric bike out there. That's my bike, because that's how I try to get around in Willits. There's a man in this room, I don't even know if he wants to be identified, who's so close to inventing a battery-operated train car. Can you imagine a train car that would go from the skunk train to the hospital 3 times a day on solar battery? Can you imagine that? We would be a destination point for California people saying, this city has got their act together. We're limited by our imagination. We're certainly limited by our money, but let's think about this, because it's going to brain trust to say, we can figure out a way to make things better to where other people can watch us as a leader, and they want to follow us. So, climate change is real. Let's not disagree on if we have it or not. And now let's figure out how, as Matthew said, and Matthew's a good friend of mine, let's talk about insurance. Let's talk about what's in it for us. If we can make Willits a safer spot, can we as a city council go to an insurance company and say, we're working hard on our climate change. Can you lower some of our rates? That's what we're looking for. Thank you.
The city is planning to build a metal pavilion in City Park with a 40-foot by 80-foot concrete foundation and concrete driveway. Do you support this?
All right, that's a good question, since I'm on the city council and I've not honestly had the opportunity to publicly let you know how I stand on this issue, because as many know, I have a business across the street, and so I have abstained from giving my opinion, so now you're going to hear it as an individual. The city of Willits worked very hard to secure a grant, many grants. We were fortunate to win the Clean California grant, which is going to enhance and beautify many parts of Willits, and I'm very grateful for the grant. There were lots and lots of meetings many of you participated in. We gave feedback and ideas on what it is that we wanted. There are parameters about what the grant money can be spent on, but it isn't super detailed. So as it pertains to the pavilion, I am not in support of a large cement pavilion. I like the park the way it is. What I wanted to see is things I heard from my constituents. They wanted to see a playground for the younger children that was fenced in, that was safe. They wanted to see some upgraded equipment. They wanted to see more shade structures. My idea of shade would be picnic benches scattered around with solar panels for shade cover around them. I think the idea of expanding the pavilion really was to meet the needs of the local farmers market, which we did value, and it will be coming back before City Council for further discussion. So, next meeting is Wednesday night at 6:30. Let your council hear what you have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, Robin Layler. Yes, I believe that the city council still has time to weigh in on the pavilion. Part of the money, well, we could modify the pavilion idea, or we could say no pavilion. And either way, some money might need to be turned back or repurposed, but it would not affect any of the other parts of that grant that is coming forward. So I ask you all to weigh in. I do not support a cement slab in our city park. I've put forward in the Willits News other ideas for that, which would be bring the farmers market back to the city park now as it is. They have shade structures, and there's a citizens group forming already that is researching how to get 10-year-old trees in that will grow rapidly. I know Virginia Stransky looked up, she found a book that has a picture of our park, Bud Snyder Park, when it was first planted. It's gorgeous. We can do that again, and that would probably be a citizen's effort. Thank you.
Hi, Jerry Gonzalez, and I think it was Sabrina that I talked to the other day that saw the first iteration of this didn't have the pavilion as big and where it's at now. I think I've expressed to the city planning department that I'd like to see a redesign. Mr. Foley, who did come out, and I think he sent me a letter that basically said that, yes, he did talk to city staff about this. He doesn't want to weigh in too much on what some of the constituents have said about shade or not shade, but shade structure, but he was in favor of the pavilion. And so I want to do right by the farmer's market, but I also want to make sure that the cement doesn't take over the park. But so at this point, I kind of want to see what staff and what the public weighs in on before we throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think we need to step back and look at everything and not just kind of close our minds. Thank you.
Tom Ullman, isn't it interesting that we're talking about a 3,200 square foot cement structure right after talking about what we're going to do about climate change? Isn't that a coincidence? We're talking about taking out 3,200 feet of vegetation and putting cement right after climate change. What about an alternative? What about having permanent holes there to where we can put a tent there in the winter, we can put a tent there for the farmer's market? But as Matthew said about the Exley Lane situation, when the neighbors weren't even familiar with it, I've been contacted by the people who live around Bud Snyder Park and said, no one told us this was happening. We had to hear the rumors. That isn't the role. The role of the city is to make sure that we are informed. And whether it's social media, whether it's putting notes on the door, that's what has to happen. There's a way to make both sides of this happy, but we don't need 3,200 feet of 6-inch concrete to go in Bud Snyder Park, and 50 years later, someone will look at that and say, what in the world were they thinking? Why did they do that? We can come up with a better solution. We're smarter than that. Thank you.
Word. Yeah, I think it's a great example. First, my name is Matthew Alanis. I think it's a great example of some of the things that has drawn many of us to actually run for city council. This is an issue that it doesn't seem like that big on the surface. It's like just a disagreement among town, but I think how it went down is pretty endemic of a lot of the frustration that people feel. We know what we want. We would like to see the farmers market return. In that conversation, it didn't go the way people wanted it to go, and that happens sometimes. But I think people's voice has been clear that they don't want part of their park to be made into a cement slab. The council is still talking about this, and I hope that you guys take advantage of the opportunity to make your voices known. And I'm not in favor of getting rid of it altogether. I think there's still room to talk, and that's what I'm all about here. I need to get people to start communicating still, and for some reason, it seems like the timetable, or the tail begins to wag the dog, where all of a sudden we have to decide right now. Why don't we just discuss it further? Why don't we take another month to figure out what kind of pavilion we do want to have? And for some reason, it just seems like, well, we got to do it next week, we got to do it next month. It has to be now. Why does it have to be this moment? And to that, I mean, I think it was just the endemic of people's general frustration of the timetable that people have when we should really be including other people about these things. Now, think of how much debate and time has been taken over with regards to this metal structure, and something as complicated as a general land use and the general plan. We're done already? I mean, we sure we don't have more things to talk about? Because I'm not that sure. Something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. I wish it were longer. I am going door to door. I don't expect I'll hit every door. There's about 1,200 doors in Willits. I'll probably manage to hit 800 of them. So if you would like to talk to me, I'd love to talk to you, because the conversations have been fabulous. So back on the table there, I put a couple notepads. Write any comments, put your name and what's the best way to contact you. I will call you back so that we can talk more about any of these things. I think that what I bring to the table as a teacher and an environmentalist most of my life, I am very good at bringing people together in a classroom or a public forum. I am able to bring out the best and bring out the talents in just about everybody that I meet. Thank you.
Jerry Gonzalez, and thank you very much, everybody. Just in closing, again, I appreciate each and every one of you for showing up today. And on the city website, under my name is I think it's a 456 number. If you call that, actually send me a text or send me an email that then pops up on my phone. So if you want to reach me, that's the best way. And I usually call people right back. If you run into me at Safeway, I'm open to talking to you. Into me around town, I'm open to talking to you. But one thing I can promise you is I don't make up my mind going into a meeting. A lot of times I sit there and weigh everything. I do my research, and going into it, it's just something I really appreciate in a small town, that we can kind of be nice about it. And also, just to kind of add, on some things, they do have grant deadlines, and that's why there's some things we haven't decided on. The housing element, et cetera, that's still happening. We're still talking to folks. And the idea is we want it to be a collaborative process. And also, I believe in working with other agencies, other groups. I'm not closed-minded. As the police chief, I work with other agencies, and I feel that way now, that if we can leverage those relationships, I'm open to them. And so thank you very much.
Tom Allman, in no way am I disparaging the current city council. We're good, but we can be better. I was lucky enough to be elected by this county 4 times as your sheriff. I know I've run $26 million budgets. I know how to read a budget book. I know what numbers cause me to question, and I know what numbers are solid. Really and truly, one of my biggest frustrations when I was sheriff is going to a Board of Supervisors meeting and seeing so many subjects end on a 5-0 vote. And fortunately, we're lucky to have a 3rd district supervisor here today, John Hashak, who doesn't allow many 5-0 votes. It's 4-1 because John speaks his voice. And that's what our city council needs. If we all agreed on everything, we only need 1 city council person, okay? We need 5 opinions, and we need people who voice their opinions. And if it's a 3-2 vote and you're on the losing side, hooray. But stand your ground, don't make it a 5-0 vote, really and truly. I really want to end on this one, that I was in public service for almost 40 years because I enjoy solving problems. And that's where my niche was, solving problems. Listening to what the problems were and waking up at 2 in the morning saying, I think we're gonna do it. And if you look back at some of the things that happened when I was sheriff, whether it was a silly zip ties that were bringing us $1 million a year that we needed to help enforce the black market cannabis regulations, that's exactly what we did. That was my idea. It was so good, the state virtually stole it from us and said we can't do it anymore because they wanted the money. Yes, that was the state of California. But what I'm saying is, I want to be on your city council to help solve problems, to listen to you, and come up with solutions. Thank you again for being here today. And whether or not you vote for me or not, please vote. Absolutely. Please vote. Thank you.
Matthew Alanis. Well, I decided to run for office because I wanted to give people a choice. I wanted people to have quality candidates. I have a background in economics. I taught economics. I did financing and payroll for several years. I have a big heart. I care about everybody. I'm a person of inclusion, a person of faith. I have served on the board of directors for Project Sanctuary, which is a well-known group in our county who helps domestic violence victims. I did that for a number of years. I served as their treasurer as well. I'm proud to call among my supporters, if you see my sign around town, people who are from what we might call the political right, and those who might be on the political left, because I am more interested in being independent and moving the city forward together than I am in winning any particular argument going red or blue. That's why most of my signs are purple, because I want to make sure everybody knows that I'm on both sides. I'm in favor of this town. And lastly, I'd like to say that one of the things that I really want to focus on is rebuilding those relationships with both people and communities, and rebuilding our sense of oneness. I think that we have debates. I think we can disagree on things, and I'm looking forward to a time when we have new people on the city council it's not that I'm disagreeing or that I dislike the people who are currently on the city council, but they've had 8 years. They've had time. Anything that they've been talking about tonight, they've already would have had 8 years to implement up to now. So I think it's time for new voices and new people. You understand that there are other people who can do the same job as our current city council does. They're not the only ones in the whole city who can do these things. And I'd like to show people, especially my students, that it's worth taking a risk, that it's worth giving a try, and it's worth putting yourself out there. Because anytime you do that and you're willing to serve others, you're going to be a winner. I hope you vote for Mr. Alanis. Thank you.
Sabrina Rodriguez. Some have asked me why I decided to go for another term, and I think that that's a really valid question. I work really, really hard, but I love Willits. I genuinely do. I give my heart and my soul to this community every day. I guarantee you, Mr. Holman, that if you've been to city council meetings, it's not 5-0 generally. And you will often hear myself and others that will have healthy debate, and I'm never afraid to stand up for my constituents and let the rest of the council know that I have an opposing opinion, but it's always based on facts and logic and research. And I deeply respect any of my council members who disagree with me. In fact, I want to know why they do. I want to know who they talk to, where they got their information. Maybe there's something I don't know, and I want to know. That's why I take the time to get out and about, listen to people. I have a local business, so I hear what my constituents have to say. I'm in the grocery store. I'm on the soccer field. I'm out coaching. I'm out helping families. I am very involved in the city of Willits and beyond its borders in advocacy for youth. Youth are super important to me. I'm a big youth advocate. At the same time, I have been an advocate for climate change, for protecting our climate, for transportation. I serve on more committees than you would probably even imagine it. And why would I do that if I have so many other things to do? Because I genuinely care. I care. And if you write my name in on the ballot, I promise to give you another 4 years of hard work. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'll work hard for you again. And if not, I'm happy to continue the hard work of supporting my community in any other capacity. And you'll see that action is the proof. Thank you.
So to all the candidates, thank you so much for your thoughtful responses.